There's a lot that goes into plotting your VFR flights. One thing that I like to do that helps me specifically with my pilotage and my dead reckoning is I like to make big, easy to read doodles. I specifically do this on foreflight so I can see it in mid-flight, but you can also put it on a map. For starters, let's go ahead and make this easier to read by putting this nice white overlay. Obviously, the first thing you do is you plot your path. As you can see, I am going from Van Nuys all the way down to lovely San Bernardino. This is a part of what you do when you fill out your big complicated navlog. The thing that I do in addition to this is first, I make my approach circles. Why do I do that? Because one of the things that I really struggled with at first was contacting approach/departure whenever flying out and wondering which frequency I was going to use. So let me go ahead and turn on my little guy here. Ooh, look at this. That's right. That's me and my little plane. That's a t-shirt design you can get, by the way. But anyway, whenever I fly to San Bernardino, because I've done this many times before, I would take off usually runway 16, usually runway 16 right, and I would do a left crosswind departure. And because of this left crosswind departure, you see I happen to end up in this little quadrant, which is contact 124.6. And I get flight following, they tell me contact SoCal approach 124.6. Makes sense because I'm flying into this quadrant. Yes, quite. If you've never flown out of Van Nuys before, and you're going, golly gee, I want to go to San Bernardino, I wonder who I'm going to contact first, this can give you an idea of who you might be able to contact first. Oh, look at that. Going all the way to San Bernardino, I'm going to be coming from this side. Now, when I looked up the chart supplements, I got confused as to whether you have to do 127.0 and 1 through 5.4 because they do have both. It's going to be one of these two. I know it's not going to be 134.0. If you're coming from the east, you got a pretty good idea that you're probably going to be contacting them. The second thing I like to do, of course, is part of navigation is your landmarks. I got my top of climb. I got the San Gabriel Airport. I like using airports. This is a really nice path because there's plenty of airports just in case you need to divert. Speaking of which, you can also do your alternative airports here because you may need to land. And because of that, I like having the tower and I like having the ATIS written bigly so I can see it. Because if I have to fly here and I remember all of a sudden, oopsie doopsie, I forgot to use the little oranges room and I really need to land because I got to see a man about a wallaby, I can be like, oh boy, ooh, what's tower? Oh, good. It's 121.2. Okay, let me get ATIS 118.75. And I can get that and I can hurry up and land there and go, okay, good. Crisis averted. In addition, you can see I also like to put down the nautical miles that I have traveled. I like seeing these because I like seeing my little GPS guy hit this point and I'll be like, there we go, top of climb, 20 nautical miles. And you can cross-reference this with your dead reckoning. And of course, because they're written down in these big purdy numbers in different colors, you can pay more attention to your instruments and of course what's outside the window. Finally, the last thing I like to put down is another landmark, but this is kind of an important one. This is where I get my ATIS for where I need to land. I know that once I reach this point right here, I will have traveled 35 nautical miles. I will have burned X amount of fuel. Y amount of time will have passed. And I know, well, it's time to get the ATIS for San Bernardino, which is 124.175. I like to draw this big circle because it's kind of a suggestion as to when to get ATIS. I still put the exact point in which I crossed the exact nautical mileage, so I can use it, of course, in my dead reckoning calculations. But I like to put the circle because sometimes I got to be chatting with people. Sometimes I got to be hearing if there's traffic, especially because it's right above a airport here, so there will be traffic. So this is kind of the wiggle room that I know I can get ATIS for San Bernardino. And if I'm making my way back, 127.55 is KVNY, I can get the ATIS for home base. Now, the thing about this that you can possibly do if you, for some reason, don't have foreflight or if your foreflight died is, let me go ahead and pull up this VFR navlog that I made for San Bernardino at some point. I actually flew this exact thing once. You can actually copy and paste the whole doodle right underneath. Boop. There you go. Now, this is just kind of like a nice little thing you can look at if you'd like, because again, if you're using just good old fashioned dead reckoning, then you can look at your little clock and say, well, golly gee, 30 minutes have passed, which means I should be at 24 nautical miles. And there you go. And you go like, well, that's good. I can look out my window there and see Brackett Field. And if I got to land there, well, golly gee, I can contact 121.2. More time passes and you can say, well, golly gee, it's time to get ATIS because I'm in the ATIS circle. circle. You know, if you want to do that and have an extra doodle at the bottom, and not to mention you also have these frequencies, so you know that you can contact all these people just in case, you have that written down too. Long and short, this is just kind of like a little doodle thing that I like to put on top of my maps so I can read them, because I'm a troglodyte that likes to look at pretty colors and I don't like looking at all of this big fat complication nonsense. This hurts my brain meats. This is for us simple folks. So if it can help me, hopefully it can help you too.